Trying to figure out where to live in Red Deer. We got the north side versus the south side. Now on the map, they don't look that far apart, but trust me, the vibe on each side is going to be totally different. If you're relocating from another province, it's really easy to assume that Red Deer is all kind of the same, but that couldn't be further from the truth. So each area's got its own feel, it's got its own pace, and of course, they have their own pros and cons. So whether you're relocating for work, looking for a fresh start, or like most people, you're just really trying to avoid moving to the wrong area, this is the breakdown I wish more people had. So we're unpacking what life actually feels like on each side of the city, the kinds of neighborhoods you'll find, and what really matters when choosing where to live. Now, before we dive into what each side of Red Deer feels like, let me show you kind of how the city is actually laid out, because once you see it on a map, it makes everything else just way easier to understand. All right, now that we have the map open, let's take a look at how Red Deer is laid out. For the most part, it's pretty self-explanatory. There is kind of one area that kind of confuses people, but we're going to break it all down right now. So let me grab my markup tool. I'm sure everybody knows by now, or most people do, that Red Deer is divided in half, basically north and south, by this river. So this is where, a lot of the best parks and walking trails are within the city. So, you've got pretty easy access from the north end, and you're not going to be too far away even on the south end. So no matter where you live, you're not going to be too far away from the beautiful river valley. Now, downtown, for the sake of this video, I'm going to include downtown into the south end, but a lot of people, and I typically would too, include downtown as an area by itself. And that is going to kind of be all of this area here. So if I just zoom in a little bit more, all down in through here. Now there's some good neighborhoods to live down there, some of the most beautiful neighborhoods in the city, but we're going to look at those a little bit later in the video. Now, the south end of Red Deer, if you haven't figured it out already, is anything on the south side of the river. Now there's one kind of spot that kind of gets a little bit confusing to people, and that's kind of this area over here. So it gets confusing because this area right here, this is 67th Street, and this is clearly on the north side of the city. However, you cross the bridge. So anytime you're crossing a bridge in Red Deer, you're basically going from north to south, and 67th Street carries into kind of this northeastern section of the south section. I hope that made sense. So this area over here, is still considered South Red Deer, even though it looks and it should be considered North Red Deer. So you have neighborhoods like Timberstone, Clearview Ridge. You got a really unique neighborhood over here in Evergreen, and we're going to look at all this stuff a little bit later. And a neighborhood called Glendale Heights. These are all really, really desirable and popular areas to live in. Now, if we move back over and we take a look at the north end is going to be anything on the north side of the river. So pretty self-explanatory. Now, both the south end and the north end are going to have kind of inner rings and outer rings. So you're going to have older neighborhoods kind of in this area here. That's a really bad drawing. Even the Pines is over here too. That's an older neighborhood. Then you have newer neighborhood. And then Oriole Park West is going to be a newer neighborhood. Wow, I apologize for that drawing. And then same thing on the south. So as cities grow outward, we have older stuff in here. So kind of in this big square. And then we have like Waskesiu, and Woodley. And then, an older neighborhood all the way over here in West Park. So this core inside here is going to be older, more mature neighborhoods. And then everything all along the east side, as well as this south end. Southeast corner is a very popular place to live in. All of this stuff along the east side and the south is very good. And so is the west side. But over in here, we're also going to have a newer neighborhood called Westlake. So I hope that kind of breaks everything down for you. Now you kind of got a good idea of how Red Deer is laid out. And when people are talking about certain areas, you get what they mean. So hopefully that helps. Now let's get on to the next section. All right, now that we kind of have an idea of the layout of the city, and I think this is super important, let's kind of talk about the overall vibe from the north end to the south end, because north and south Red Deer definitely do not feel the same. So let's start up on the north side. Now, in my opinion, things do feel a little bit more laid back. It's older, it's a little bit more established, and for the most part, I'd say it's quieter just because there's less population living up on the north side of Red Deer. It's a little bit smaller, and the streets are generally going to be a little bit less busy. depending on the neighborhood. There's definitely some neighborhoods on the north side that absolutely will not fit that quiet and busy mold that I just talked about. Now, there hasn't been much development up on the north end for a long time. We're talking at least a couple of decades. In fact, out of all the neighborhoods on the north end, there's only 3 neighborhoods that have homes built past the year 2000. So we have Oriole Park West, we have Kentwood, and we have Johnstone. The rest of the homes are basically going to be built anywhere from the 1950s to the 1990s. So the north end definitely has a mature, settled-in feel, which a lot of people actually like. And this is also going to be a great starting point for first-time home buyers or those looking to get into the market that don't want to stretch their budget. Homes on the north end are typically going to be a little bit more affordable than that same home on the south end of the city, most of the time. Now, one thing that I do think that everyone should know, and again, this is my opinion, and I'm sure most people would tell you the same thing, is that the north does have a few more hit or miss areas. There's some pockets, for example, near the homeless shelter that a lot of people do tend to avoid. But for the most part, the north end is really solid, especially if you know what neighborhoods to live in. Now, over on the south end, things are going to feel a little bit more polished, for lack of a better term. So we have more schools on the south end, we have more amenities, we have newer neighborhoods, and naturally there's just going to be a little bit more traffic. There's more population on the south end of the city. This is also where Red Deer College or Red Deer Polytechnic is. And in general, it's just going to feel a little bit more active and busy overall. Now, there is a ton of popular neighborhoods to live on the south end. There's a lot that are in demand, and that's going to be a completely separate video we won't get into on this one. But I would say that the south end does tend to attract more young families, and that's partly because a majority of the schools are all on the south end. And we're going to touch on that a little bit later in the video. Now, this is also where people often look when they are thinking about upsizing. So say you got into the market, you bought a house up on the north end because that's what you could afford, and you found something that you love, but now your family's growing and it's time to upsize a little bit. A lot of people do start looking to the south end. And if you are a young professional or you just want things more nearby, more to do, the south end definitely leans that way too. There's just overall more going on the south end of Red Deer. But what if you love the idea of walking trails and beautiful nature, or finding a quiet pocket that feels like the country inside the city? So stick around, because what's coming up next might surprise you. All right, let's talk about the trails and nature within the city of Red Deer. This is one of the biggest things that people don't expect about Red Deer, Alberta. Like I said many times on this channel, they think it's just a gas stop between Edmonton and Calgary, and no one really realizes how beautiful this city is. So we kind of already talked about this when we broke down the layout of the city. Our river valley basically separates Red Deer in north and south, and that river is almost in the center. So no matter where you're living, you're never going to be too far away from that, 10, 15 minutes at the most. Now, the north end does have access to some beautiful parks and trail systems, especially if you're living in the right neighborhood. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hop back over to the map. I'm going to show you, kind of break that down for you, and then we're going to pull up some drone footage so you can see exactly what I'm talking about. And this drone footage is going to be, for the most part, unedited, so give me a little bit of grace. All right, now let's kind of break down the walking trails and walkability on the north side of the city. So again, stupid pop-ups. Most of the best trails in Red Deer are all going to be along this river valley here. Everybody knows this by now. Right in here, we have the Red Deer Golf and Country Club, and we're going to pull up some drone footage here shortly to show you guys exactly what I'm talking about. We have Bower Ponds here. Now, technically, this is all central. As you can see, this is pretty central compared to the rest of the city. However, they are on the north side of the river, so it's definitely going to be a little bit easier access if you're coming from the north. However, if you're living in farther away neighborhoods like Kentwood or Johnstone, or even the Pines, it's still a bike ride away if you want to, but it's definitely going to take a lot longer. So some of the neighborhoods that are going to be really close to this kind of stuff that are still desirable to live in are going to be Oriole Park, as well as Oriole Park West, which is a great neighborhood here. We have a little neighborhood, an older neighborhood called Fairview. So let's pull up some drone footage. You guys can really see what we're talking about here. Okay, so this is all unedited footage. This is just me raw flying my drone around. So, again, cut me some slack. So what we're looking at right now, this area, this is all Oriole Park West. So you can see this is a really beautiful area. There's some massive homes in this area. People built their forever homes, $1 million plus homes in this area. So people aren't going to be spending that kind of money if it's not a great area. You're right along the river. And then these walking trails come back into kind of a lesser known park back here called Maskapatoon Park. goes along the river through wetlands, and it's actually a pollinator park. So whatever kind of insects pollinate, this is kind of where they hang out. No big deal. Now you'll notice too that we do have the highway. This is Highway 2 running here. So you will have some highway noise and traffic come always in this neighborhood. But this is a really nice neighborhood. This is one of the newer sections on the north end. So again, you have most of the homes mainly built here in the early 2000s. All right, now that I've spun my drone around, we were facing west, now we're facing east. So again, we're flying over top of Oriole Park West, and then we get into, so this would be called Oriole Park. So this is going to be an older neighborhood. Most of the homes in this section are kind of built from the, 50s to 70s primarily. And then there's this little section right here, which are going to be more of the 80s and 90s. But as the drone kind of comes around here, and I'm going to speed it up just a little bit. So again, we got the neighborhood of Fairview here. We got some Oriole Park here. We got the Red Deer Golf and Country Club right here, which is actually a really nice course. A little bit snooty though, if you ask me. And then down in this area, we have Great Chief Park, and we got Bower Ponds. Now I'm gonna switch to some different footage right above Great Chief Park and Bower Ponds coming from the south end so you guys can get a better look. All right, now this is going to be a little bit better view. So this is Great Chief Park down here. So Red Deer Riggers, I'm not sure what league of baseball that's in. They play down here regularly, lots of sports, kids sports teams playing down here. This football field is pretty cool. In the wintertime, this actually turns into an oval speed skating rink, and it's actually open to the public. And right here we have Bower Ponds here too. So, this is a really popular park in the summertime. There's a little concession here. You can rent skates in the wintertime. You can rent pedal boats here. There's a big park here for the kids. And you can see, we have the neighborhood of Fairview right here. Over here, we have neighborhoods like Riverside Meadows and Highland Green. And then again, this is kind of up where we were. This is Oriole Park. And then we have Oriole Park West over here. So not too far away from some really good parks and trails within the city, a short bike ride or a short walk, depending on where you live. Now, I will say that overall, the north side doesn't have as many built-in trail systems kind of within the neighborhood. It's going to feel like there's a little bit less connectivity, in my opinion, but there's definitely still solid access to some really good nature if you know where to look and where to live. Now, if walkability and trail access are super high on your list, the south side of Red Deer really delivers in this department. So you have neighborhoods like Sunnybrook and Bower, Grandview, Waskesiu, Woodley, and there's a few others. They all back on to the Waskesiu Trail System. So the Waskesiu Trail System, it's definitely one of the more popular or premier system of trails within the city of Red Deer. Of course, we have everything along the river valley, but the Waskesiu system, it kind of divides the south end kind of into east and west. So all along here, you have beautiful walking trails. You got neighborhoods like Bower right here. We have Sunnybrook, we have Grandview, Mount View, and then downtown, we have some of those neighborhoods that we talked about like Waskesiu and Woodley. So if we pop up some drone footage here, I really wanted to show you guys the Waskesiu trail system and really explain it to you. So this is part of the Waskesiu trail system here that is downtown. You can see there's a big ridge here, and then up here we have neighborhoods like Grandview, and over here we have Mount View. Now this is actually downtown over here, and this would be the neighborhood of Parkvale. But these trails, they're gonna take you all the way down, right by Bower Mall, by Sunnybrook, and then take you all the way down to the Centrum if you want to catch in a Rebels game, or if there's something going on at the Westerner grounds. So this is the neighborhood of Sunnybrook here. This is one of the most popular neighborhoods within the city. And again, all this wooded area here along the west side of Sunnybrook. This is, again, the Waskesiu trail system. Now, it's kind of tough to see the trails running in through here, but again, we were just down here, down by Parkville. So these are going to take you all the way down to the river. And then, of course, if you're living in the neighborhood of Sunnybrook, if we just speed this up a little bit, we have the Sunnybrook Farms right here. Make sure you check this out with the kids. And then over here, we have Bower Mall. So you walk right through the woods here. You can be at Bower Mall, depending on where you live in the neighborhood, in a 5-minute walk. And then these will take you all the way down to the Centrum, which is down here. And that is where the Rebels play hockey. So if you're looking to live, somewhere near beautiful nature, living on the river isn't always the greatest option because sometimes the neighborhoods aren't the best or you're going to pay a leg and an arm. I would definitely suggest living in a neighborhood that's kind of close to this Waskesiu trail system. Okay, now we're going to hop over to the southeast section of the city. So kind of this section right here would be considered the southeast section. So we have neighborhoods like Anders, we got Inglewood, we got Vanier Woods and Vanier East. So two really good neighborhoods. We have Laredo in here, and then we have this L-shaped neighborhood called Lancaster. Now, a lot of the things or a lot of remarks that I hear people say all the time that have helped move here is that even in our newer neighborhoods, there still is a lot of walking trails and there's lots of connection within the neighborhoods. They love it. So if we take a look at neighborhoods like Vanier East, I'm just going to pause it here. So this neighborhood all right here, this is considered Vanier East. Now, right in between here, there's a bunch of walking trails that kind of separate Vanier from Laredo. So just on the north side, I'm sure we're going to see it if we let this play through. But you can see in the middle of the neighborhood, there's tons of connectivity. There's lots of walking trails. This is a great park. This is why this area is so great for young families. And you can see all around this man-made lake, you have walking trails that kind of run all around it. And again, those lead all the way down to just about Sunnybrook, just about the Waskesiu trail system. Now it's nice, so sorry about my drone movements here. This is a 55 plus seniors living. This is a great area. Now one thing to consider about this area is we do have these big power lines running east to west across the entire city. But again, you can just see all of the connectivity, all these beautiful paved walking paths in these newer neighborhoods. So great for rollerblading, great for biking, great for doing lots of stuff with the family. You don't have to worry about them wiping out on the gravel like I did when I was young and put a rock through my lip. So this is the neighborhood of Vanier East. This whole southeast section is a great place to live for not just families, but for everyone. And over on the southwest side of the city, you have places like Westlake and West Park. You're just minutes away from Heritage Ranch, which is one of the best parks in the city, as well as the Red Deer River, which means you have easy access to all of the beautiful walking trails that come in along the Red Deer River Valley. So not only are you in this area, you're super close to the college, you're super close to one of the best rec centers in the city called the G.W. Harris Canada Game Center. You are super close to a lot of really great nature in this southwest corner. Now you do have a little bit of traffic come again because you are relatively close to the highway noise, but bottom line, Red Deer is known for its incredible trail system. And if getting outside is part of your daily routine, the south end just makes it easy to step out your door and hit the paths. And by the way, I almost forgot to introduce myself. My name is Kyle, and we help people make the move to Red Deer and the surrounding area all the time. So if you got any questions on what that looks like for you or need any help, make sure you use this information popping up on the screen, or all of my information is pinned in the chat below. All right, so by now you've probably got a feel for what life looks like on each side of the city. We kind of talked about the vibe, you know, what to expect when it comes to walking trails and different things like that. But now let's kind of talk about what it kind of actually costs for real estate on either end of the city and what's coming next that could change the game. So here's something to think about. The north end, it's not as big a gap as it used to be, but the north end is still slightly more affordable than the south end. Now, again, it's not a huge gap, but if we take a home, for example, in Kentwood, you take that exact same home and you put it down in Lancaster or the neighborhood of Deer Park, that neighborhood on the south end is going to be a little bit more expensive than that same house in Kentwood. Now, the gap is definitely closing for sure. So for the longest time, I wouldn't even compare a home on the south end to a home on the north end, but Kentwood saw the most appreciation in the entire city out of all the neighborhoods in 2024. But this is something good to know if you're a first-time home buyer or you're just someone who's looking to get into the market without stretching your budget. Now, that value on the south end, it might change pretty quick. It might not last because for the first time in many decades, the north side is going to be actually getting some serious attention with the Hazlet Lake development that is supposed to break ground here in 2025. Now, this is what I was told last year. I tried calling Hazlet or the office again this year before I made this video. I didn't get any answer. I don't think there's been any construction or any ground has been broken yet so far. It's supposed to happen though this summer in 2025. And look, Hazlet is not going to be just another cookie cutter subdivision. It's Red Deer's first residential community that's been built around a natural lake. And that means walking trails, green spaces, and the lake is supposed to kind of be the focal point of the neighborhood. So if you're into the idea of, a lifestyle that's just a little bit more outdoorsy and connected to nature, this one is going to stand out. And this kind of development, it's going to have a ripple effect for sure. So we kind of already touched on this, but neighborhoods like Kentwood and Johnstone, which have already been seeing solid appreciation over the last couple of years, with this new development that's about to start taking place and will continue all over the next couple of decades, things are likely to continue trending up, especially in these neighborhoods. They're going to be right adjacent to the Haslat and the North 11A project developments like Kentwood and Johnstone. So bottom line, if you are looking for value or, some long-term upside, this part of the city, it's definitely worth keeping a close eye on. Now, if you're after something brand new right now, the South End is where most of the action is. So you've got new construction still going strong in a lot of different neighborhoods here. So we got Evergreen, we got Timberstone, we got Timberlands, as well as Laredo. There are some newer developments taking place in Gasoline Alley called Liberty Landing. I'm not going to touch on them in this video, but worth taking a look at if you're looking for, a more affordable new build. But let's pop up some drone footage and take a look at what's going on in Timberlands and the Timberlands North, as well as show you a little bit where Evergreen is. Okay, we're back in kind of the northeastern section of the South End. So what we're looking at right now, this is Timberlands North. So I used to work at Station 4 at the fire department, which is right here. So I really got to look at this area a lot as I drove to work every single week. For the longest time, this place was absolutely a ghost town. There was nothing going on here. Now, over the last year, it has absolutely exploded, and it's not going to be long before you see this place is full. Now, over here, we have the Wellings. This is a 55 plus living community, so this is great for retirees. But what this area is really well known for is being super walkable. So you can see here we have the Timberstone outdoor market. So all through here we have tons of different kinds of shopping. There's a big Costco here. There's supplement stores, pet stores all in here. Motion fitness, Pompa's restaurant, daycares, basically anything that you can think of. And there's nothing that you can't find in the Timberstone Plaza. You just hop straight across 30th Street or 30th Ave, and you get into the Clearview Market. And this place absolutely has everything from all the major banks. The Canadian Brew House is in there, as well as one of my favorite restaurants called the Brown's Social House. So this area, if you're working in the area, it's definitely 100% walkable. And just getting your day-to-day stuff, it makes it super easy. You don't really need to leave this section of the city unless there's something that you really need that's somewhere else. Now, if we just spin this around a little bit, so we're looking at Timberlands North now, just previously. This is actually what I call Timberstone. So there's a couple different little names within this neighborhood, but I just call this area Timberstone. There's a school in here, so this area is great for young families. This is also great for first-time home buyers who are, looking to not break the bank, but they don't want to live in an older house. You can find some nice, affordable, newer homes that would be great for a first-time home buyer in this area. All right, now I just kind of spun the drone around again. You can see up here, this is the neighborhood of Evergreen. So this is the newest neighborhood in the city. There is a ton of new construction going on here. You'll see that this, I'm just going to pause it here for a second. It's kind of separated by about 1 kilometer from the rest of the city, so it has a really secluded feel to it. This neighborhood is going to be unique that way. You're not really going to find that anywhere else. So it is really, really quiet. And if you just continue out a little bit farther, you get into the Riverbend Golf Course as well as Discoveries Canyon. Now, there also is a high school in this area. So this is the St. Joseph Catholic High School. It is a relatively new high school. And then over here, we got some amazing outdoor pickleball courts. So what people don't realize is that pickleball is a huge thing here in Red Deer. So for $60, you can get a summer membership here. And this is actually, they've held, I think, pickleball nationals here the last couple of years, just because these courts are that good. Now, one thing I noticed too is they have a big mosque going up here. So here's the fire department. Right in behind here, they have this massive mosque. I think I'm pronouncing that right. I do apologize if I'm not, but whoops, sorry about the drone movement there. This area is on fire. There's tons of new construction going on, and it is a really good area of the city to live in. All right, now let's hop downtown for a second and take a look at what I think is the most exciting project taking place in Red Deer right now. So this area over here, this is called the Capstone Project, or it will be the Capstone Development. Now, I'm just going to pause this for a second. So this is going to be a really cool, trendy area full of modern townhouses and condos. It's going to be right up on the river, and the housing is going to be affordable. So that's something you don't hear very often, is affordable housing along the river. So I think this is going to be one of the most unique areas within the city when it comes to walkability and having all these cool shops and restaurants and everything close by. So this is the first phase right here. This is the Alex. So this is just for rent. You can't actually purchase these ones, but I do believe they just started showing open houses a couple of weeks ago. So you're going to have all of this area that's going to be completely developed. Now, if I just back up just a second here, this area is called the Canada 150 Square. So every other Friday, they have food truck Fridays, and there's tons of food trucks down here. And, there's live music, there's events down here. They had a Latino festival, I should say, a couple of weeks ago. And it's just a really cool area in the summertime. Another thing to point out is we have the Red Deer Hospital right here. So you can see how close that is and how walkable that is to the capstone. So once the $1.8 billion expansion is done, there's going to be lots of health professionals looking for a cool place like this to live that is walkable to the hospital. Now, right beside this capstone area, we already have a really cool area called the Cronquist Business Park. So it's already got tons of cool shops, and there's going to be a lot more stuff coming with the capstone development. But there's places like Pure Earth Organics Market, there's Dose on the River, there's the Red Stag Barber, Karate Cheney Studios. You can go to Trouble Monk and grab a beer, which is one of the best breweries in Central Alberta. So in my opinion, with the walkability, you're being right up on the river. You can plug into all these walking trails along the river valley. The capstone is definitely the project that I am most excited for, and I think something that everybody should be watching out for. All right, next up, let's talk about schools and Red Deers. Now, if you've got kids, this part matters, obviously, because you have kids. And if you don't have kids, this part still matters because this could have an effect on when you go to sell in the future. So here's the thing that most people don't realize when it comes to Red Deer. And I think that this is important to know. Now, in Red Deer, when it comes to high schools, everything is going to be south of the river when it comes to specifically high schools. So if you're on the north end, the catchment area for your child's public high school is going to be Lindsay Thurber, which is right downtown. Now, this is a great school in a really cool spot. So lots of people, they freak out. They think, oh, this is downtown. Is this going to be a bad school? Do I want my child to go there? No worries about that whatsoever. So this is going to be no better or no worse than any of the other high schools in Red Deer. In my opinion, they are all really good. So you can see it's in a really cool setting though. I mean, this is right downtown. We have the river over here in the neighborhood of Waskesiu. It backs onto the Gates Lakes Bird Sanctuary. It's a big school with lots of programs, and this is where the kids on the north end are going to end up. Now, even farther south, you've got a couple more options. So in Lancaster, and in my opinion, Lancaster is the best neighborhood when it comes to having schools. So you've got 4 schools all right within the neighborhood, and there's 2 high schools. So you have Hunting Hills High School, which is a public high school, and then you have the Notre Dame Catholic School. So both of these are right beside each other. They're super walkable, and right in between them, you have the Collicutt Center. So this is kind of a great combination all within the Lancaster neighborhood. And then over in the Clearview and Timberstone area, you've got, which we kind of already talked about, you have the St. Joseph Catholic High School, which is a newer high school. And this is going to be the catchment area for the North Side students in the Catholic School Division. So even if you live in neighborhoods like Kentwood or Oriole Park or Oriole Park West, your kids will be commuting south to go to high school. So bottom line, if you've got kids in the high school grades, expect a bit of a drive if you are on the north end. Now, for younger grades, both sides, the south and the north side of Red Deer, have decent mixes of elementary and middle schools, both public and Catholic. Now, after saying all that, saying that you're going to have a commute if you're coming from the north end, Red Deer is not that big of a city. So your commute to whatever high school end is probably going to be 10 or 15 minutes tops. So no matter where you're living, it's still going to be pretty manageable. That is one of the benefits of living in a mid-sized city, not some massive city like Edmonton or Calgary. All right, we've talked about a lot of things so far, but what about shopping, amenities, and things to do day to day? Now, this section breaks that down, and trust me, there is a big difference between the two sides. All right, now let's actually talk about what we get amenity-wise on the north end. So first off, you've got Parkland Mall. Now, this is definitely the quieter mall out of the 2 malls that we have in Red Deer. Bauer Mall is going to be the more popular one, but you definitely have some really good basics in this mall. So you do have a Walmart, which is nice. Everybody wants to be close to a Walmart. And also within this mall, you have one of the most popular gyms in the city called Good Life Fitness. So a couple perks of living on the north end, being close to Parkland Mall. Neighborhoods like the Pines are right across the street. You do have access to one of the best gyms. Now, when it comes to rec centers, your best option on the north end is absolutely going to be the GH Dawes Center. So we do have a smaller YMCA up on 67th Street, but the Dawes Center is going to be your go-to if you're living on the north end. So this just got a $40 million upgrade. We're talking 2 new NHL-sized rinks. It's got a brand new running track, a new fitness center. They updated the pool. There was a full reno done inside and out, and they even added a spray park outside for the summertime. So if you're into fitness, skating, or you just want a legit rec center that's close to home, this one wins big on the north side. Now, the shopping scene on the north end, it's definitely going to be a little bit more limited. So up on the north end, you're not going to find things like Costco or Home Depot or other big box stores. Those are all going to be down south in South Point Common. So yeah, if you are doing a bigger shop, hitting up Winners or Sport Check, you're definitely gonna be heading across town. But what the north end does have is some underrated local gems when it comes to places to eat. So people love the Hash Eatery for breakfast. This is one of my favorite places to go to. My wife's as well. Also up on the north end, you have Forno's, which is great for Italian food. And then there is this Thai place that everyone raves about. Now, I'm not a huge fan of Thai food, but when I worked on the fire department, we always had to stop at this place when I worked at Station 2. So it's called Rueon Thai, and I hope I'm not butchering that, Rueon. So if you're into Thai food, make sure you check this place out. And there's even one of Red Deer's last remaining nightclubs up here on North End. So for a while there, all the nightclubs took a big shit. They took a hit. There was 0 nightclubs for a while. So this one, I do believe, the past staff from Billy Bob's, which is a rockin' nightclub here for 30, 35 years, when that closed down, they moved the Silver Buckle, or they moved up to the north end and opened the Silver Buckle. So if you're feeling social, it's got that small town party vibe too. Now, so bottom line, you've got most of the basics here on the north end, plus a few standout amenities. But if you want the full range of shopping, dining, and entertainment that Red Deer has to offer, you're probably going to be dipping into the south end now and then. All right, now let's talk shopping on the south end, because this is where Red Deer has the most stuff going on. So you've got South Point Common, which is absolutely loaded with so many different stores. Actually, you know what? For this one, I'm going to pop up some drone footage for you. It's going to be easier to walk you through it. Okay, so this area here is going to be South Point Common. So there's a ton of big box stores in here. We have, if we just pause it for a second, we got Home Depot. This is one of the better Walmarts. I would say this is better than the Walmart up in Parkland Mall. Over here, we have Rona's, and we have places like Shoppers Drug Mart, Best Buy, HomeSense, Winners, Sport Check. So this is a really popular spot for people to go shopping. And all along this south end, so Gates goes all the way from north to south. And all along Gates Avenue, this is all shopping and businesses and commercial stuff. So there is lots of restaurants along here. We got the Granary Kitchen, there's Moxie's, there is Earl's. I love Earl's, by the way. And shout out to Bo's Bar and Grill. This is one of the more popular places to go to grab a drink here. It's right in this area here. I love Bo's. This is an amazing place. They got live music. You got to go check them out. And you can see like this all borders. What am I in Lord of the Rings?
Well, it's none of our concern what goes on beyond our borders.
It borders the neighborhood of Bowers. So, people can kind of look at Bauer one of two ways. It can have a busy feel over here, and then you have Bauer Mall up in this side of the neighborhood, so it can be busy up there. But you go a couple blocks in, and this neighborhood just flips. It's nice and peaceful over here. And then again, you have the Waskasiu Trail system that goes all the way down to the river, or we head out this way, again, down to the Centrium to catch a Rebels game, or whatever we got going on at the Westerner grounds. So hope that made sense to you guys. I love showing you guys the drone footage of it. All right, now just to back up a little bit there, I kind of glazed over Bauer Mall. So Bauer Mall is hands down one of the most popular malls in Red Deer. So if you're looking for the best shopping in the city, this is where you're going to find it. This is definitely better than Parkland Mall. Sorry, Parkland Mall, I'm not trying to shit on the north end. This is just facts.
You just have to accept the truth.
You're going to find all the big stores, solid variety, and there's even a Sunterra market in there. So this place is an amazing market. If you do go there, make sure you check out the pizzas there. They are absolutely fantastic. Now, Bauer Mall isn't trying to be West Edmonton Mall or anything like that, but for Red Deer, this is a nice mall and it definitely gets the job done. And if you're looking for Costco, we have one Costco in Red Deer, and it's not actually within city limits. So it's out on Gasoline Alley. This is actually out in the county, so it's kind of nice. You know, I would hate to see Costco right in the city. It's super, super busy. So it's also nice for commuting, especially if you're living in some of the smaller towns that surround Red Deer. You're not having to come into the city to actually go for a Costco run. So really, really nice. And if you're looking to grab a bite while you're out on the south end, the South's got a solid lineup. So you've got Phil's Diner for a classic breakfast. This place is an amazing breakfast place. It's right downtown. It's by the Freshco, I believe. And then, you know, for something a little bit more casual, you have the Taco Loft, which is on the Ross Street patio. You know, this has brought fine dining to tacos. Definitely check this place out. This is a local staple. And then you have spots like 111 Grill. So this gives off a little bit different vibe. It's kind of in this old brick building, so really cool atmosphere. They have live music there sometimes, and they focus on steak. And then there's the 53rd on Ross, which is right downtown, right off the Ross Street patio. So in my opinion, this is some of the best fine dining when it comes to Red Deer. Now, when it comes to the south end and when it comes to rec centers, the south end of the city has a lot going on for it. So you've got the Collicutt Center, which is a monster rec facility. Now we're talking wave pool, lazy river, water slides, indoor running track. There's a full gym. There's even a couple field houses in there. There's skating rinks, and there's even a climbing wall. So this is one of the most popular places in the city, especially for families, and it anchors a lot of the newer neighborhoods around it, like Lancaster and Laredo. So it's actually right in the Lancaster neighborhood. And then across town on the southwest side, we have the GW Harris Canada Game Center, right beside the Red Deer College or Red Deer Polytechnic. God, I hate calling it that, sorry. So this is a newer facility. It's got an elite level gym space. It's got skating rinks. There's a fitness center there. It's a really good gym, actually. I really enjoy it there. And it's got more of that kind of performance athlete vibe, but it's also open to the public too. So super clean, super modern. And don't forget about the downtown rec center. So it's a little bit older, but it's been updated, and it's got a great pool, a hot tub, a fitness center. It's definitely a really central location being right downtown. And something that a lot of people don't know about with kids is it does have an outdoor pool. So this is amazing on the hot days. So yeah, look, whether you're into shopping, swimming, or skating, you know, or you just need a solid gym, the South End has a ton of different options. All right, now let's kind of do a wrap up here. So let's talk about our final thoughts. So the north side or the south side, what's the right move? You know, if you're a first-time home buyer, you want something a little bit more affordable, or maybe in an area that's a little bit more quiet. Again, depending on the neighborhood, reach out to me if you want to know which neighborhoods you don't want to move to. The north end could be a really good fit. There's lots of great areas up there. You've got most of the basics covered. You've got lots of schools, except for high schools on the north end. But again, it's not that far of a drive. Remember, Red Deer is not a big city. You've got a solid rec center in the Dawes Center, and even a few hidden gem restaurants. You might be finding yourself heading to the south end for, you know, some day-to-day stuff, but you know, most of the time it works. Now, if you're after newer homes, maybe a little bit more walkable trails, closer access to some of the best shopping in the city, you know, and that feel that everything's more like 5 minutes away, the South End's where it's at. So that's where most of the city's growth is happening right now. And again, it has been happening towards the South End for quite a long time. And the South End does tend to draw a little bit more younger families. Not saying at all in any way, shape, or form that there isn't some great areas for young families on the North End, because there absolutely is. So really what this all comes down to is that both sides have their pros and cons, and it really comes down to your lifestyle, your priorities, and how you want to live. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. And if you would like any help, you know, making the move here, what that looks like for you, use this info popping up, or all my information is pinned in the chat below. All right, guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.